And I said, Sam, I know nothing about writing columns. I'm a marketer. I can communicate things. I've never written business columns. He says, look, people know who you are, and this is what I'm willing to do for you. He says, I want you to write a story about any small business in Detroit. He says, I want to run it. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. I said, Sam, I know nothing about this. So I wrote a story. They passed it out at the Mackinac Policy Conference. And that was my first start, into creating that niche. And people would start saying, hey, we like this. You're talking about small business. I started focusing on small business. And Detroit has over 62,000 small businesses, and there was a need for getting information to them.
If you're looking for a space that feels like yours but comes with way more perks, then Bamboo's dedicated desk is exactly what you need. Now, when you sign up for a dedicated desk, what you'll get is an ergonomic chair, so your back won't be hurting while you're getting your work done. You'll also get free coffee and tea daily in order to fuel your grind. And don't forget, you get mail services and printing services right at your fingertips. And also, you get your own personal storage with the lockbox for your security and peace of mind. And it doesn't stop there. Just by being a member of any of the Bamboo locations, you get access to discounts from local businesses. So if you're ready to join the Bamboo community and find a space that's yours, what I need you to do right now is to go ahead and email Malika at bamboocowork.com or give them a call at 313-766-0134 and tell them that the Black Fridays podcast sent you. And right now, while the desks are available, if you sign up for a 6-month commitment, you'll get 1 month free. Or if you sign up for a 12-month commitment, you'll get 2 whole months free. I look forward to seeing you at the Bamboo locations. With that being said, let's get into the episode. What up, though, Black Fridays family? Welcome back to another installment of the Black Fridays podcast. Before we get into today's episode, I need you to make sure you hit that like button, comment, subscribe, send some videos to family, friends, and loved ones so that we can keep this thing going. Now that I got that out of the way, I have someone who may be a bit of a familiar face because you've probably seen them on either CBS Detroit, PBS, being a small business and marketing expert, and their media personality, a marketing maven, and a professor, Mr. Marcus Lee. How you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you for pulling up to Black Fridays. So grateful to have you on the show. Always excited and enthused to be able to talk to another marketing professional, especially with someone who has so much experience and wisdom as far as the game goes, and someone who is doing it on a daily basis. So would love to first be able to level set by asking Mark, what is your understanding of, or what would you say your definition of marketing is?
Yeah, marketing is, a lot of times we think of marketing as advertising and promotions. No, what marketing really is identifying target audiences and building relationships with those audiences by using products and services to solidify the relationship. Whoa, okay, wait a minute, Mark, you're getting very technical. So the bottom line is you have people who want to consume a product. And the bottom line is they're not exactly sure what product to consume. And you as a marketer, your responsibility is to identify the target markets where you could take those products to. And then you build a relationship with them. And now this is where the famous 4 Ps come into place: product, price, promotion, and packaging. So you use those quivers in your toolbox, so to speak, to help build those relationships. So for example, if you have a product and you want to market it to a consumer, if they don't know anything about the product, they may not necessarily purchase it. So you want to build what? Awareness through promotion. So bottom line is the role of marketing is identifying specific wants and needs of consumers or target audiences, and then taking your products and services to fill a specific void. That's really what marketing is. Everything else is really an extension of it, of getting the messaging out there to promote it. But the bottom line is building relationships with customers.
Love that. That's perfect explanation of what marketing is. And I wanted to ask for you, what drew you to marketing? Because I see that you went to your Eastern Michigan alumni, and I saw that you studied business there. But what drew you to marketing in particular?
You know, that's a great question. So a little bit about my background, born and raised in Detroit, went to high school here, and certainly went to college at Eastern Michigan University. And one of the things, I went to graduate school at Northwestern University. So going back to my early days, one of the things I loved was just, watching commercials, man. At a very young age, I enjoyed doing things like that. But to answer your question, when I was a student at Eastern Michigan University, I had a general business degree. I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. And so I took a bunch of different classes. And marketing always stood out with me. Once I started to understand the idea, what it stood for, I found out I gravitated towards that. I still wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do when I graduated. So then I went to Northwestern University in Chicago, where I got my master's degree, and I started taking marketing classes full bore, full speed. I loved it. I had professors who just brought it to life. Everything that they talked about, for example, the marketing, the communications, I could relate to all that. And I found myself standing in front of classrooms in those days and pitching business ideas as part of class projects. And I absolutely loved it. And so as a direct result of that, that's where my career, I graduated from Northwestern with a master's degree, and I worked in marketing in the corporate space for over 20 years, for 25 years. And then I ultimately started my own business. So I gravitated towards marketing based on my educational experience, and it resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of that, I have a similar story because in undergrad, I did communications. And so for me, once I got into my comms classes, I thought I was going to be sports marketing, but that didn't work out because me and the science classes at Michigan didn't necessarily get along well. And so,
relate to that.
But I'm grateful that it didn't because communications was essentially my backup plan. And once I got in those classes, I loved it, loved all the understanding of being able to get a grasp on communications through media and like what certain messages mean, why things are shot and produced the way that they are. It truly was like a unlocked passion for me once I got a chance to get to that point.
I tell people, especially young people, if you're watching the podcast, I know you're watching it, as you're going to college, you may not necessarily know what you want to do.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of getting an education, of going to college. You can dabble here, you can dabble there. My dad was a legendary banker in Detroit. A lot of people knew who he was, and people assumed that I was going to financial services, and I didn't because I didn't want to follow. He had a long legacy, and I was trying to obviously carve out my own. So I tell people, if you're in college, if you're a young person, you're not exactly sure. Heck, you're in your career. It's okay. It still will come. The answer will always reveal itself. So I encourage people to get as much exposure, much experience educationally. And then what's going to happen with me, it just clicked. Mm-hmm. Like you, I could not stand finance. I used to take finance classes, say, oh my gosh. Yeah. I knew I needed to have it. Right. But I really got enthused and passionate when I took marketing classes. So at that point, when I said, I think this is what I want to do in my career moving forward. And finance, while I needed it, was a secondary, but not my primary major.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to introduce you to my favorite part of Black Fridays, which is called Freestyle Fridays. Hey, listen, thank you all so much for listening to this episode and any episode of the Black Fridays podcast. But I got to be honest with y'all, I really think it's something missing, and I hate that y'all didn't notice it. The thing that's missing is your podcast. Why am I not listening to your podcast? You talked about making one with your friends years ago. You know that you need one to better market and promote your business, but yet you still don't have one. This is why I created the Pocket Podcasting course to teach you how to be able to podcast with the essentials and tools that you have right at your fingertips in order to create. And I created 2 different ways in order for you to do that. You could join my digital do-it-yourself on-demand video recorded Pocket Podcasting course where I go literally step by step from idea on how you upload your very first podcast episode. And for my people who like to have something a little bit more tangible, I have created a digital ebook that walks you through my podcasting journey, the things I've learned along the way, the tools and equipment that I use in order to create and elevate my show. Now, look, I don't want to keep you too long, but I'm going to make this as simple as possible. Go ahead and head over to www.blackfridayspod.com to learn more about the digital podcast course and also the podcasting ebook, or you can hit the links in the show notes to take you directly to each of those resources. All right, enough of that. Time to get back into the episode. So, Mark, I know that you are our business expert and our marketing expert, but I need you to rap. You're going to have to give us some bars. You're going to have to freestyle a little
I
bit.
got to freestyle. Keep asking me the questions. What up, Doe? Let's see, freestyle. You going to help me out here, bro?
Nope, it's all you. It's your show.
I got to freestyle.
Well, actually, you don't have to freestyle. So it's just, it's just a bunch of rapid fire questions so we can learn a little bit more about you.
All right, you got it. Go for it. I'm game. I'm all
right.
yours.
So you say you love and enjoy commercials growing up, and is that still the case for you?
Commercials have changed.
Okay.
So I love communications.
Got you. So I was going to ask you, what's a commercial that sticks out in memory for you?
Man, I would tell you, have it your way. Burger King, way back in the day. Not many people are going to know this, but Luther Vandross sang the jingles back in the mid-'70s. Pull it up. And it was called Have It Your Way. And that commercial has always stood out with me.
Wow. So the original, was he in the commercials, or you could just tell
he was
singing?
a jingle. He was a background. That's how he got us started. He actually went he went to Western Michigan University.
Okay.
And
he did. He dropped out.
He dropped out.
Yeah.
And started singing. And so at that time, Burger King obviously hired some jingle singers, of which he was one. But he had that distinguished voice, man. And you knew, even as a teenager or as a young person those days, everybody was singing those songs.
Yeah.
And Luther Vandross had played a major part of that. So that was one of my favorite commercials.
That's dope.
I still know the jingle. All right, you want me to free rap it?
Yep, yeah, go ahead.
Have it your way. Have it your way, Burger King, or something like that. But I remember the Have It Your Way. But it was done in Luther's classic voice. Man, it's unbelievable.
Dope. Do you have a favorite hidden gem in the city of Detroit?
Oh, man. As a Detroiter, let's see, the hidden gem. Yes. It's not really a hidden gem. Everybody knows about it, but I love it. The Motown Museum.
Okay.
And I grew up in Detroit during the Motown sound.
Yes.
So this is part of our freestyle, right? All right. So here's the part. So I was born and raised in the city, and I grew up in Detroit during the Motown sound. So during the Motown sound, I was actually Aretha Franklin's paper boy.
Wow.
I delivered the Detroit News in those days. Was the afternoon paper. My next door neighbor was Lawrence Payton of the Four Tops.
Wow.
His son is still in the group to this day. He passed a few years ago. Right around the corner from me was Paul Williams. He's in the Temptations. You may know the song Just by Imagination. The guy that says, "Dear Lord, hear my plea." That's Paul Williams. And he got right around the corner. You go further up, on Vassar was a guy named Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was my neighbor as well. In those days, those people were your neighbors, right?
Wow.
I can go on and on. Smokey didn't go too far away. And so the reason I say it's not a hidden gem, but I have a special affinity towards the Motown Museum because every time I go there, it brings back memories of me growing up in Detroit during the Motown era. And I see those pictures up there, and I say, wow, I knew some of those, I didn't know them personally,
right?
But these were your neighbors. These were just Detroiters like you and me, man.
Yeah.
So that's probably I love that place, man. That Motown Museum.
So I got a follow-up question for you about that because I feel like people who may have grew up in the same era as you, they don't go to the Motown Museum. At least from people I talk to, and I wonder why. They're like, I've never been, and I don't necessarily care to go. And so I'm wondering if you have any perspective on that.
I understand. I never went to it either. And I think what happens, like people here. Again, when I was growing up, everybody worked in the auto plants. When I was in high school, everybody worked in the auto plants. When I went to college, everybody went to they worked in the auto plants. And what's interesting is I used to be a tour guide at the Ford Rouge plant when I was a student at Eastern Michigan University. No Detroiters would ever go through the plants, but those tours were sold out because people from across the country were curious to find out, how do you make a car? Why is that? Because Detroiters worked in the plants every day. They wanted to stay away from that. They didn't want to get in the plant, so they worked in those hot July days, right?
Yeah.
That's all they did. They wanted to get away from it.
Yeah.
So my hypothesis for the Motown Museum, people of my generation, we saw it firsthand.
Yeah.
We lived it. I could tell you, man, my parents used to go to Barry Gordy's house in the Boston Edison district every year for his he used to have the Christmas party here this December, so the Christmas season. My parents would go. They would walk in, and Barry Gordy put a dance floor on top of the swimming pool. So when you walked in, my dad would tell the story. Stevie Wonder was playing the piano, and all the Motown artists would be in there performing. Can you imagine? And so my parents told me these stories. I was too young to go, but my dad would say, "Hey, I danced with Martha." My mom would laugh. Say, "I danced with Martha Reeves tonight." Who's Martha Reeves? I was a young kid.
Yeah.
But so to Detroiters, my era, my age, we saw it firsthand. So when we go to, so a lot of them want to have the memories already.
Yeah.
So the Motown Museum, if you notice, they always get international visitors.
Sure.
Always get people from across the country. To your point, you find very few Detroiters going to spend the day there unless they're bringing somebody in from out of town. 'Cause we see it every day. We saw it every day.
And I didn't grow up a part of that era, but obviously I got a lot of appreciation for it because like my mother, grandmother, like they had an opportunity to like live in Detroit during that time frame. And so for me, I think I went in maybe like 2015, 2014, somewhere around there. It's been a long time. Like I need to go back because I know they made additions and stuff like that. But I don't think I fully comprehended like a lot of the stuff that was in that museum. But it's definitely a gem of the city. And I adopted this philosophy of being able to explore your city like a tourist because there's so many things that we miss just by being here. Because it's almost, I would liken it to folks who live out in California who talk about how they never been to the beach. Whereas like it's one of those things you just kind of take for granted because like it's there, but you don't necessarily take the time to like explore your own space and where you live.
And to take that a step beyond, I would give you other hidden gems that I just loved. They're not well-known places.
Okay.
You know what they are? They're just neighborhoods. Now, hear me out when I say this. We have such a historical city. And I've lived in, because of my corporate career, I lived in 9 different cities across the country. And Detroit has always been my home. As you know, I do public speaking. And so when they introduce me, I make sure they say, "Hey, he's from Detroit." And the reason I say the neighborhoods, those are truly hidden gems. So I always visualize. My parents moved to Detroit in 1957. They came up here from the South, part of the Great Black Migration. And I always visualize, like, what did this neighborhood look like back in the 50s? So I'll go to a certain neighborhood, and I'll just sit there, man, and I'll visualize like the cars going up and down the street. And I try to visualize, Detroit was a city of trees. Some neighborhood has so many trees. I would just go to a certain neighborhood. I would just sit there and just visualize what it looked like, right? People talk about Corktown, but there's an area off of Woodward near Wayne State University. There's like one block, nothing but old homes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And it's got the brick streets. And the homes still look like the original homes.
Yeah.
And sometimes, Denzel, I just sit and I visualize. So to me, the hidden gems of our city, not the big glassy buildings, not the Comerica parks, not the all the venues where all the people come and perform. To me, a lot of it's just the hidden gems are the neighborhoods. And just take one day and just go and just sit and imagine what it used to be like. That's a gem to me.
I agree. So I got 2 more questions for you.
Yeah.
Favorite small business to go to in Detroit?
Ooh, that's a great question. I love Cuzzo's.
Okay.
I love, the restaurant. I just love the chicken and waffles idea. I think that's awesome. Namdi, he has MoCA, right? The Museum of Contemporary Art. He's a brother. And right near Wayne State University. I just love to go in there and check out the artwork and all the things in terms of the artistic abilities that represent our city. So those are certainly a couple. One's a restaurant and one is not. But they're 2 small businesses owned by brothers in the city, and they've been around for quite a while.
Very dope. And what are you listening to right now? What does Mark have in rotation?
And if you get in my car right now, smooth jazz.
Okay.
All right. So I did radio a long time in this town, but my brother, there's a backstory there. My brother worked on Detroit radio for 30 years. People know I do radio and TV and all that, but he was probably much more well known than I was. He started radio at the University of Michigan.
Nice.
And then everybody went to work in a big city, so he got his experience at U of M. And then he went down to WJOB. When WJOB was on the AM side, not FM 98, on the AM side. Then it flipped over to FM 98. And then during the disco years, he went to a radio station, WLBS, which is a sister station in New York, was WBLS. And they just focused on disco in those days. Then he went over to Mix 92.3. For a long time, he was on Mix 92.3. So he's playing the oldies and the classics in those days. But then he went to Smooth Jazz, V98.7, which was in business in Detroit and other major markets across the country for a long time. And then one day they closed them down across all the cities, including Detroit. So I say that to say, so if you got in my car right now, smooth jazz. That's what I'm listening to. That's my playlist.
Okay.
But my dad got me into jazz as a youngster, and I would get in the car with him. And his playlist in those days was the radio station WJZZ, 105.9, the jazzy one. And I was like, Dad, why you listen to that stuff? Can we put on some, like, WJOB? He's like, oh, we're listening to this. It's amazing how that's been passed on.
Yeah, I was going to say fast forward.
So bottom line is, no, man, I'm listening to I'm listening to jazz. I'm not listening to the latest stuff. I don't even know who the latest artists are.
Okay. And then bonus question, what does the S stand for in your name?
Everybody asks me that. See, that's part of my mystery. That's part of my mystery. You want me to tell you? All right,
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Well, can I guess?
Go ahead and guess.
All right, I'm going to do 3 guesses.
3 guesses.
Samuel.
Nope.
Smith.
Nope.
Sir.
Superstar. Not quite.
Okay.
I've never stated publicly.
Okay.
But for you, I'm still not going to state it publicly. So, but let me tell you how I started using, why I started using my middle initial.
Yep.
So my name is Mark Lee, 7 letters. It's a very common name. I was living in Chicago, and I remember in those days, this thing called Google came around, and I started Googling Mark Lee, and all these things came up. Like this one guy, he was running for tax evasion. Another guy was running from the government. I'm like, whoa. So then I put in my middle initial, S, and then I popped up.
Okay.
And that's how I started using it. It was to distinguish myself from the other Mark Lees out there, so that when you Google me, you know you're talking to me and not some other guy who's broken the law. No disrespect to that.
Gotcha.
And so it's stuck with me. It's been part of my brand for a long time, and people kind of chuckle. But that's the number one question I get. What does the S stand for?
So you had to clean the algorithm to make sure that people could find you.
You got that right.
Yeah.
And by the way, I will say this to you. If you haven't done so, I tell my students, I'm also a college professor at 3 different universities, but I always tell my students, Google yourself weekly, monthly. Just make sure that, that everything's legit, what's coming up on you. It can be an enlightening experience. But anyway, that's how I started using my S. So people will introduce as Mark S. Lee. And at one time, somebody said, Mark Lee, who are you? Mark, I never heard of Mark. Oh, you're Mark S. Lee. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, thank you for partaking in Freestyle Fridays. Definitely appreciate it.
Absolutely.
And so the question I was going to ask you previously is that given your 20 years experience in corporate marketing and also your own marketing venture for approximately the same amount of time, for you, what was it, where did the aspect of media come in for you? Because I know that you mentioned that you had gotten to radio, your brother was doing radio, and then also television as you do currently, and you're also a fellow podcaster as well. So when did that start for you? When did you find that knack for wanting to be a media personality?
Actually, it started back in the corporate space. And what I mean by that, when I worked in corporate, I was the highest ranking black in different organizations as the chief marketing officer. So that role means something to you as a marketing person. So in that role, in that capacity, I was responsible for becoming the face and the voice of the company. So if there was a major marketing initiative, hey, let's go talk to Mark. Let's all talk to Mark. If you went down, I negotiated deals in those days where if you went down to, I was living in Florida as an example, but if you went down to where the Jacksonville Jaguars were playing their home games, there was my face. You walked in, there was my face, the voice, up on the screen. I said, welcome you to this weekend's game between the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Detroit Lions. Sit back and enjoy. This game is brought to you by. I did the exact same thing for the Miami Heat. So whenever you walked into the arena, there was my face and my voice. I was doing it on behalf of the company. And so then I was doing all these interviews. I started to enjoy it. I'm like, hey, I'm getting all this, spotlight, and people are interested in what I'm saying. And that was probably the first step. So it's actually in the corporate space.
Okay.
And then I realized I was giving all these marketing opportunities to everybody else working for the company, but I was responsible for all that. So when I started my own business, it became clear to me I have a knack for this. I enjoy the microphone. I enjoy the camera. I enjoy sharing my knowledge with people. So I actually walked into a local radio station. This is a true story. I walked into a local radio station. They used to call on me when I was working in corporate. And so I left corporate, and I looked at the guy who was running the station at the time. I said, you know what? He said, what's that? I said, you owe me a radio show. He said, we were just talking about that. He said, what do you want to do? I said, oh my gosh. Literally on the spot, 30-minute radio broadcast weekly. I want to highlight Detroit-based businesses. Da, 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 da. He said, you got it. I said, I got it? He said, yes, it's yours. So now I open up my big mouth. I get the radio show. In those days, we had Rolodexes. I had to go through a Rolodex to say, what are you doing? Hey, can you join me? Can you join me? And then word started to spread. And it started to grow. And then that led me to writing a business column. So the radio certainly opened a lot of doors for me. Then I wrote a business column for Crane's Detroit Business for 10 years. I was the most popular blogger they had. I was the only black blogger that they had at the time. And people gravitated towards me. Every time I wrote a story, over 200,000 people read it. So now my brand starts to really be elevated between the radio and then my blogging. I wrote for the Michigan Chronicle. I was the very first business columnist for the Michigan Chronicle. So my brand continues to, my exposure level continues to increase. Then eventually I got to TV. And so people started calling me and saying, hey, we listen to your radio, we listen to your articles, we read your articles. Can you give us your opinion? What do you think about this particular issue from a business perspective? And so I started doing that. And then I started getting more and more phone calls. And so that's kind of how it all came together. So it actually started in the corporate space. But then when I left and started my own business, I realized I can do this. And I've been called the trusted face and voice of the small business community. And I had two mentors who really helped me to get into this field in terms of media. One, you probably know both of them, Chuck Stokes.
Yep.
And Chuck called me up one day, and I would do Spotlight on the News with him on an ongoing basis. So he gave me a great shot on Channel 7. And another person you might know of, Hugh Perkins.
Yep.
And
Two legends.
Yep. And Hugh and I used to have conversations. He says, why don't you come on Let It Rip? So I did Let It Rip with, as a guest, as a contributor for about 10 years until the day he retired. And so those two guys were instrumental in supporting me, giving me the exposure, and saying great things. So that's the long and short of saying it started in the corporate space. I continued on my own, and I love every minute of it.
I love how you got started being able to seize the opportunity from the corporate standpoint, and then also carving out your lane with the radio station. Like, look, this is what I want to do, and then being able to tackle that opportunity. Over the years, what has it been like for you to be able to carve out that space to be that trusted expert when it comes to business, small business, Detroit business, marketing? What has that been like for you to be able to develop that brand, that personal brand for yourself?
It's been awesome. I'm not going to lie. I've made mistakes along the way. The bottom line is that you got to know the right people, right? You got to latch on or build relationships with people. Business is about relationships. So what's it been like for me? It's been an awesome experience. When I first started, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to focus on. But there was a legendary person, you may know of him as well. His name is Sam Logan. Sam was a longtime publisher of the Michigan Chronicle. I would never forget. It's a true story. I'm at an event at the DAC, the Detroit Athletic Club downtown. And he comes up to me, he says, I've been tracking you for the last few years. He says, I want you to write a business column for the Michigan Chronicle. And I said, Sam, I know nothing about writing columns. I'm a marketer. I can communicate things. I've never written business columns. He says, look, people know who you are, and this is what I'm willing to do for you. He says, just pick them, think about it, which one. I said, okay, maybe small business. He said, okay. I said, so what do I do? He says, I want you to write a story about any small business in Detroit. He says, I'm going to run it. I said, you're kidding. He said, no. I said, Sam, I know nothing about this. So I wrote a story. It was above the fold. They passed it out at the Mackinac Policy Conference. And that was my first start into creating that niche. And people would start saying, hey, we like this. You're talking about small business. And so that's how it became my niche, if you will. So I started focusing on small business. And Detroit has over 62,000 small businesses, and there was a need for getting information to them.
And speaking of which, that's part of the reason why I started Black Fridays. I wanted to be able to have a platform that spotlighted people who were community and business leaders who were leveraging whatever business that they did, whether a professional, entrepreneur, creative, etc., and doing good in their community or trying to do their best to elevate their community and promote that wellness and well-being. So I'm interested to know, from a state of the small business standpoint, could you kind of paint the picture of what small business in Detroit looks like? And then if you want to go historical, you can kind of talk about over time, but really more so like what is the landscape of small business in Detroit right now?
We have 62,000 small businesses. Now, the U.S. Census data is dated. That was the most recent data was 2012.
Okay.
All right, so I want to make sure.
That's a long time.
It's a long time,
Yeah.
but that's up to the government to update it.
Yeah.
All right, so my suspicion is the number's less. But regardless, let's just use that data point of 62,000. At the time, we were the fourth largest in terms of the number of small businesses. And what did they look like? Two-thirds, 40% of them, 40 to 45%, actually 60% of them are women and minority-owned businesses. Women and minority-owned. And women-owned businesses actually are larger than men-owned entrepreneurs in the city of Detroit.
Yep.
So you're talking about predominantly African-American, women, and male. A lot of those businesses have been in business for less than 3 years. So the range is the majority, probably 60 to 70%, have been for less than 3 years. The remainder have been in business for over 3 years. So still relatively young. Financially, they have money in the bank. The average small business owner, now this is a national number, so you probably extrapolate for Detroit. The average black business owner, small business, has less than $15,000 of capital in the bank. And to put that in your bank.
And that's for everything. That's not like saved, or that's for operations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So put that in perspective for you. $15,000 will get you through 2 weeks of operating.
Yeah.
Of paying your bills.
Yeah.
So again, so now you asked me for the picture of the small business owner. So it's still capitalized. There's still access to capital challenges. The other part is the failure rate. It's typically about 80%. That's a national stat. 80% of small businesses will fail within 12 months of opening their doors.
Regardless of industry.
Regardless of industry. And you're looking at upwards of, you're lucky if you make it to a year and a half. So that number, the success rate drops to like 50% of those who try to get to a year and a half. In terms of the industry, now what we're seeing with black businesses in the city of Detroit, or just businesses in general in Detroit, technology. So technology has gotten hot. Years ago, it was primarily service industry. Those were people trying to service the automotive industry, right? The brick and mortar shops, flower stores, restaurants. Now today, what we're seeing is diversification into technology. Everybody's reading about AI. Everybody's hearing about technology. And we're also, that area is beginning to explode for the small business community. And oh, by the way, why is that happening? Because Ford has opened up the whole area in Corktown.
Yeah.
Not too far from here. And so they're moving a lot of employees down there. I think upwards of 5,000. So there's an opportunity for Detroit small businesses to leverage those business opportunities, if you will. So bottom line, we have a lot of small businesses here. A lot of them are still struggling in terms of access to capital. Some are still struggling when it relates to growth and sustainability long term. And quite frankly, we're starting to see a transition into the technology space. And the majority are black and women-owned businesses.
And from your years of experience and actually being a small business owner yourself, what are some of the key things that those business owners can do in order to make sure that they can make it past that 12-month threshold and or get over that hump past 3 years and then become a long-standing business or staple?
It's not rocket science. I tell people, if you have an idea, write it down, right? So if you're a small business and you want to focus on growth, have a plan. Have a plan. And here we're in challenging times right now, right? We know some of the resources are drying up and all that. This is not a political conversation. We're not going to go down that path. But we know there was a shutdown not too long ago.
Right.
And some of the funding dried up for that short period of time. So I tell people, make sure that you have a plan. And make sure that you have more than one plan. Still have that aggressive plan, a realistic plan, and maybe a pessimistic plan. Because you want to be able to plan for the economic downturns, economic uncertainty. So number one is have a plan. Number two is make sure that you have a reliable board of advisors. It doesn't have to be formalized. You don't have to pay anybody. Don't necessarily use your family and friends, but use somebody who's an expert in the area, someone that you can trust, that you can just pick up the phone and say, hey, this is what I'm grappling with. What do you think? What should I do? I have an informal board of advisors. People see me and say, well, you know all this stuff about all this other stuff. I say, yeah, but I also have a network of people that I reach out to, which leads me to my next point. Network. We become so focused on using Zoom, right? We become so focused on, well, I don't feel like leaving my house. Let's have a Zoom conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still a face-to-face person. I still want to see how you're going to react. I still want to see how we're going to communicate. So get out as much as possible and network. We are blessed in this city where we have so many successful business people, and we have a lot of successful black businesses and businesses in general. And a lot of those people are willing to help you. So bottom line is go out and network with those individuals. Lastly, take chances. Whoa. Now, why would I say that? Mark, I don't know if I want to take a chance. Life is about chances, but you want to be able to minimize the risk. Don't take crazy chances, but understand what can you afford. Understand what the best option is for your business as you mitigate risk. Right now, as I mentioned, we are in challenging times. No one knows what the economy is going to hold, what's going to happen with tariffs, with inflation. We know that small businesses are being squeezed financially. Some of them are not going to make it. The other part I would suggest is find partners. If you have a like-minded business or a like-minded partner, you may want to think about partnering with them and see if you leverage each other's strengths as well.
Absolutely. And we've been talking about small businesses in general, and I forgot to ask you about the Lead Group. So could you tell us about the Lead Group? You talked to us about when you started it, but would love to know more about the services that you provide,
Sure.
the folks that you have worked with over the years. And could you open the doors for us to the Lead Group?
So the Lead Group is 2007. We started 2007. Can't believe it's been that long. And we are a business consulting organization. We provide business consultation to small to medium-sized businesses in the areas of strategic planning, branding, rebranding, communications, and we also offer training and development. In the last year or so, we've expanded into the consulting, into the coaching business. And so coaching, we're talking about, it could be professional coaching, personal coaching, or business coaching, right? And so we've been very fortunate and blessed to I started the business in the height of the recession in 2008, where people were closing doors. And so in my situation, I was working in corporate America, and I was asked to move again, And I said, I'm back home. I've lived in 9 different cities. My family's here, and my connections and my contacts are here. So I decided to walk. I took me a package. They offered me, I was on a contract. I said, cash me out. They cashed me out. And that's how I started the Lead Group. And so for the last 17 or 18 years that we've been focused on helping small businesses to achieve their dreams. And that's a critical part of it. The other part of the Lead Group is we do public speaking. So we're always invited to share our perspective, right, on business issues. And we try to leverage that information so that you can figure out how to use it. So we give you the information, but my goal is for businesses to be able to have practical advice and counsel. So when they walk away from a conversation with me or from a workshop, they can walk away with something that's actually usable. And so that's kind of an overview of the Lead Group. I love it. Types of clients that we have for-profit and nonprofit organizations. We have large businesses, and we have a lot of small businesses, and they're primarily in Metro Detroit. I have been asked to expand across the country, but my business model is very simple. The Lead Group is me, and what I do is I 1099 based on the amount of work that's coming in. So I don't have the bandwidth right now to expand into other cities. And oh, by the way, Detroit is my home. And I want to make sure that we're Detroit-centric. That is the mission of our organization, is to focus on Detroit entrepreneurs and help them grow and prosper moving forward.
And how have you been able to stand the test of time in terms of adapting to what these businesses need and what they may be facing in terms of the environments, industries, spaces that they're in?
So that's why I take the knowledge that I have, And one of the things that we have an annual small business workshop. And this year will be our 12th annual. Will be in May. We do it May of every year because it's Small Business Month. And what we do is we identify a theme that ties into what's going on with the economy, and is focused on helping small businesses, right, get information that helps them to continue to grow and thrive in these challenging times. So to answer your question, our goal is to work with small businesses, give them the information, give them the tools, help them understand the gaps, and help having them fill those gaps with plans that are affordable, that are practical, that helps them to achieve their long-term mission or growth goal, whatever that might be. So it's not rocket science, man. My philosophy is very simple. Let's sit down, let's have a conversation, let me understand what your challenges are, and we're going to help you navigate through those challenges so that you come up with a plan that's best suited for you.
Absolutely. And what do you see on the horizon for the city of Detroit in terms of our small business landscape for, let's do outlook of 2026 from Mark's perspective?
Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. And the reason I say, why am I not totally optimistic? Because you still have those uncertain factors, right? The national economy, the policies coming out of Washington, D.C. Detroit is in a much better place than we were 10 years ago, even in terms of small businesses. There's a Motor City Match program that the current administration put into play to celebrate 200 businesses. So those types of programs are very beneficial. The concern, under the current administration, I think he's done a good job, the Duggan administration, trying to reach out to talk to and engage small businesses. So looking ahead under Mayor-elect Sheffield, I think she sees the value, understands the importance of small businesses. So I would anticipate she's going to continue to try to put resources, whether for the current administration or maybe try to change them a little bit. I think she's going to invest in small businesses. So I think looking ahead to 26, we have a lot of good things to look forward to, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I'm still cautiously optimistic because of tariffs. I mean, that's putting price pressure.
Yeah.
It's squeezing small businesses. That's going to be a challenge. Inflation, while it's come down, it still bounces back and forth. That impacts small businesses. The most critical part is whether or not the city maintains a relationship with Washington, D.C. And you may say, well, why is that important? Well, we still got federal dollars coming into play. The other challenge is Detroit gets almost $900 million in ARPA funds. The ARPA funds are dollars coming from the federal government that have been allocated to different cities for different usages, including supporting small businesses. Well, later this year, in 26, those dollars dry up. They're done. That came in under the Biden administration. So those dollars will no longer be here. So my question becomes, this is where that cautious comes into play, how do we replace those resources? Small businesses rely on those resources. Got to figure out how do you work with banks? How do you integrate grants, philanthropy? So those are challenges that I see in 26. One will be funding. Two is to maintain the momentum that the city has. And thirdly, making sure that these small businesses have the tools from an administration standpoint and beyond. For the government, we had a gubernatorial race. So these are all factors that kind of tempers my enthusiasm.
And how can some of our small business owners tap into some of the resources that you use in order to stay the most informed? Because I know as far as the work that you do, you have to be on top of these things, but I'm wondering if we could steal a little bit of your recipes as to how we can make sure that we are as close to informed as possible as these changes come.
I'm a voracious reader. I know that we've gotten so engaged with technology, but I tell people you need to stay up to date on the trends. Understand what's going on. Don't just take a blind eye to it. Number two, it's okay to go to get additional education. We have many incubator programs. You're here at Bamboo Detroit.
Yep.
Right? You have many programs that are being offered here. You have other programs out there. If I mentioned Tech Town, WeWork, I think, still around, I'm not sure. But there are many. The universities offer entrepreneurial programs.
Yep.
And by the way, these programs are generally free. And then workshops like the one that I offer on an annualized basis, which is free, reach out and start to attend some of these functions and talk to as many people as possible. And as I mentioned earlier, network. And so again, if you could kind of integrate all those concepts, those ideas I just talked about, you'll be amazed in terms of educationally what's going to happen to you. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things with me is, like I said, man, I'm a voracious reader. I love to read. I talk to people. I ask a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. And I'm always trying to make myself more knowledgeable.
And what you reading right now, out of curiosity?
I mean, I read newspapers.
Okay.
Online. I read 4 newspapers a day.
Dope.
You know what I'm saying? Online. Mm-hmm. So locally, I read the Free Press, Detroit News, read the New York Times. This is not a newspaper, but it's a publication, Crane's Detroit Business. Yep. And then I scan. Sometimes I'll pull down newspapers from across the country so I can know what they're doing in those cities as well. Mm-hmm. So in terms of a book, I'm not a huge book reader, but I'm a huge, I guess, periodicals and newspapers.
Yeah. Make sure that y'all still read the news. The news is a very real thing.
Absolutely. don't walk away from that, man. Yeah. And when it comes to I contribute to various news programs as well. Mm-hmm. So, yes, still watch the news. And I know that consumer behavioral patterns have changed. Mm-hmm. But now you have streaming services. Right. And now you have listen to this podcast. Yes. Listen to this podcast. Podcasting is the way that people are going. Mm-hmm. Because people, as you know, they want to listen on demand. Yeah. I don't want to necessarily have to sit at a certain time. When I was growing up, everybody watched the 6 o'clock news. Mm-hmm. Right? Everybody, if you go old enough, stayed up and watched the 11 o'clock news. Yeah. But there was nothing in between. Right. So now with all the podcasting and these types of programs, you can watch it anytime, anywhere. You don't have any excuses not to stay informed.
Very true. I just want people to stop watching news on Instagram. That is not the news on there. That is a tidbit of what it actually is. It's not. I don't want to say not credible, because you do have credible news sources that report on social media. That shouldn't be your only source of being able to get the news. Actually read newspaper, watch the news, like Mark said, and Google is a real thing. And then you even got AI that can help you out with some of that stuff as well. But you got to watch AI too. But that's a separate story. But before I forget, as we land the plane here, how we got a chance to be able to connect is through our connection through First Independence Bank. So me being a part of the First Gen board or Next Gen board, and then you actually had ties to First Independence Bank prior to you being able to work with them. So just wanted to know if you could share a little bit about your connection to that historical financial institution.
That financial institution, Detroit-based, 7th largest black bank in the country, headquartered right here in Detroit. And I think it's been 55 or 60 years. Mm-hmm. And so it rose from the ashes of the 67 disturbance, some people say riot. And Don Davis, certainly was the founder of the bank. And so the personal connections, my dad was a legendary banker here in Detroit. And at one time, he passed 10 years ago, but at one time he was the highest ranking black banker in the city of Detroit and across the country. And so Dad brought in many of the legendary bankers here in Detroit are here because of him. So those bankers now may be the next generation, but their parents came here who worked in the financial services industry because of him. So my father and Don Davis developed a very good relationship. Now, Dad was not involved in the creation of First Independence Bank. So it was more so of a friendship, a personal relationship. And so they forged that friendship, and they, as two bankers, they would kick the tires together. They would go to each other's houses and just kind of say, hey, what can we do for the city? Especially coming out of the riots, when the city was desperate for investment and trying to get people to, come here and live and work. And so that's where my relationship goes back with First Independence Bank, is actually through my dad and through his connection with Don Davis. Over the years, then Kenneth Kelly came on board, who's the current chairman and CEO, and Demetrius Hutchinson, who's the current president. And by the way, I will say, Chairman Kelly and I are also in the same fraternity. Okay. And Demetrius, I'm an Alpha, and Demetrius is a good Kappa man. And so Kenneth and I we would just connect over the years at different Alpha events. There's that networking. Yeah. And we started chatting. He started telling me about his plans for the bank when he was named CEO at the time. And we just continued to forge a relationship. And as a result, First Independence Bank is now a sponsor of my small business workshop. And then Demetrius and I, talking about small world, my dad was actually Demetrius's, he was his mentor. Wow. Demetrius is a Morehouse man. My dad went to Morehouse, But when Demetrius got into the financial services industry, I think he can tell you the story better. I believe he reached out and forged a relationship with my dad. So there's that whole interconnectivity. I have nothing but great things to say about First State Independence Bank. Obviously focus on the city, the communities, black businesses, the residents here. And I think under their leadership, Demetrius's leadership, and Chairman Kelly's, they're doing phenomenal work.
Yeah, I agree. And you really get that sense of community, and then wanting to be able to continue to upskill our folks just in terms of education, and then also better serve them from a financial services standpoint. So that's the really cool aspect of it. And then it's something that is also, I feel like, another thing that's unique to the city of Detroit in terms of it being a black-owned financial institution. And then, like you said, the seventh largest in the world, right? Or the country. In the country. So seventh largest in the country, and just one of those unique factors that is very much of the essence of Detroit. And then them being able to have that community aspect, I love that as well.
And I just had a conversation with Chairman Kelly right before our conversation today, and we talked about financial. Some people would say financial literacy.
Yeah.
I love his choice of words. His is financial wellness. I love that. And what he was saying is, we were talking about, asking a question about the gap, right? And he was saying, and so what First Independence Bank is trying to do is they're educating residents, those with money, the importance of understanding your financials, closing that literacy gap, or improving your financial wellness. I never heard it in that context before. So we're in Detroit, we love all of our businesses. We don't want to alienate anybody. Absolutely not. But when I listened to him explain that to me, it clicked. Again, what he's saying is, we want as many people as possible understand the value of home ownership, understanding the value of savings, understanding the value of investing your resources. So, in other words, they're personalizing the messages and they're getting into the community. Not many banks would say that. So they know what their market is, they know what their niche is, and they're developing products and services that will enable them to deliver on what they're trying to do from a financial standpoint.
Most definitely. And so what's next for Mark? What's next for you in terms of this upcoming year? What do you have on the horizon that you can share with us? What you got going on?
I got a lot going on. So like I said, we just expanded. I've been talking all day, so I'm clear my throat. We just expanded. The lead group has expanded into the coaching business. So when I say coaching, again, we're talking about professional development, personal development, right? So we do professional coaching in terms of your career development, business coaching as well. So I see myself and our group continuing to explore and invest and grow in that area. And why is that? We know that a lot of people are continuing they're at a crossroads. Do I continue doing what I'm doing? Some people might be getting laid off. Here it is, the end of the year. And they're not exactly sure what the next steps might be. So I think there's a huge opportunity to do that. I also I'm not walking away from supporting small businesses. And one of the ways we're going to continue to do that is we have programs throughout the course of the year. I also lead a ton of panel discussions across Detroit focused on entrepreneurship. But in May, on May 13th, save the date, May 13th, save the date, will be the 12th annual Small Business Workshop, and where we have a theme, we have guest speakers, we have keynote speakers, we have workshops where people can certainly listen to the challenges that might be confronting them going into 2026. So that will be held at Detroit Pal, or also known as the Corner Ballpark at 1680 Michigan Avenue. And right now, save the date, May 13th from 8 until noon. It's a free event. We have great sponsors, and we will release more information as we begin to flesh it out.
Very dope. And Mark, where can the people find you if they want to tap in, they want to follow the journey, your expertise, see what you got going on? How can they find you?
They can go to Lee Group. That's LeeGroupInnovation.com. So Lee, my last name, GroupInnovation.com. And if you want, you can also follow me on X. Still say Twitter, whatever it is, I guess these days. My Twitter handle or X handle is Lee Group as well. Instagram, MSL60. And so if you want to email me, feel free to email me as well. That's mark@LeeGroupInnovation.com.
Perfect. Well, Mark, this has been another amazing conversation, a great way to be able to wrap up 2025 and then be able to have an outlook for all of our entrepreneurs, small business owners for 2026. And appreciate all the work that you do for our small businesses in the community, being a representative of them, and then also being able to always share your expertise and wisdom that you've been able to gather over the years.
Well, let me say this about you, Denzel. We are at a critical stage. And I just had this conversation with you the other day with somebody else, with other people. It's awesome to see you doing your thing. And I think it's important that the next generation continue to stand up, take control, provide opportunities, these types of platforms, and tell the story. I'm only going to be around for so long, right? Other people in my generation, my age group, or whatever, some people, you ask me, what am I going to do next? I'm enjoying everything I'm doing. I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. But I challenge the next generation to do what you're doing. Man, keep that fire blazing, keep telling the story, and keep on keeping on.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's huge. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. So what up, Doe?
What up, Doe? And everybody watching, listening, we're going to tap in with y'all soon. Peace.